Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Speed Street Podcast. We appreciate you folks being here. I am settling into week 2 of unemployment, and by that I mean just a podcast guy. So we appreciate you for making me feel like I have a job. It's like still a job. This is my fun job. I enjoy this job. Racing is more fun. I will say I would like to be doing that as well, but this is a very fun thing for me to do. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about. We have a motor race that happened in Detroit. We have a pace car that ran out of gas because there were so many laps under caution. We also have a great interview with the winner, Scott Dixon. Scott Dixon, there's a honestly fantastic conversation with Scott today. I think you guys will really like it. I think he was really open about how he feels about a lot of different things with the series, the racing, and it was cool. So I hope you guys enjoy that one. I want to get into a lot about why people think they think, or what people think about Santino and the accidents that happened, the incidents and the words that were exchanged. Obviously, if you know me, you know my opinion on it. But I would actually like to kind of put in perspective the overall, hey, this is what Santino has done in his career. This is why people say what they say, other drivers, etc. And just kind of everyone can make their own decision. Like, hey, I kind of want to put it in perspective because it's interesting. It's interesting to see internet reaction. It gets the people going, obviously, a lot of times. So we're going to talk a lot about that. And we're also going to preview Road America. We've got a Road America IndyCar race going on this weekend. Very exciting. So, Chase, I want to get your thoughts. I want to get your thoughts about the Detroit race. I mean, there was a lot of accidents, a lot of craziness, drivers using their cars like missiles, hitting each other. What did you think? I mean, what was your reaction?
There's a lot of moving and grooving in Motown, so you wouldn't expect anything less out there on the track. I personally had a lot of fun watching the Detroit Grand Prix. There was a lot of dangies out there, as I like to say, but ultimately it ended up leading to some fun moves, some luck for sure, and then we got the Scott Dixon, the Iceman cometh once again, and got the win. A lot to unpack this week, and I think we should just I'll save some of my thoughts as we digest. Really excited about the Santino fact checking, Santino town hall, we could call it. We're gonna understand today, so I'm excited. Welcome to Speed Street.
Absolutely, yes. So let's get right into the Detroit race. We want to start out by saying there's a ratings tweet that came out. So let's get right into the ratings. We don't like to overreact to that, but this just came out. But there were 608,000 viewers for Sunday's race on TV only, so that doesn't count Peacock. And honestly, the Peacock audience recently has been pretty good. But last year, the race was on Network NBC, which obviously, that's not even comparable. But so we went from over 6 million people at the Indy 500 to 600,000. That is terrible. But let's think. Last time there was a race on USA Network, it only got 300,000. So we doubled that. So I'm going to say that's positive.
It's progress.
I still think it's really tough to be on USA for us because we're a series that needs the help of network television because people don't know when we race. The advertising is very low, which is, that's just kind of how we all know that. So I would say for a non-network race, this is okay. Let's not overreact too much to it. But the race weekend itself kind of had it all. Like, it had a bit of weather. It had drivers almost fighting. Santino almost punched Kyle Kirkwood, which is hysterical. Still one of the funniest things. If you would see the text conversations that were going on our phones, boy, you would have laughed at that one too. So obviously Scott Dixon winner, Marcus Armstrong P2. Marcus Armstrong P3, Marcus Ericsson P2. Good for Marcus Ericsson. That was a good event for him. Normally I do like to read through the results. I don't know if people like that, let me know. I am going to read through the results again. If we don't need to take the time to do that, we don't have to, but it is nice to just kind of set the stage and be like, hey, this is where everyone was. So obviously we mentioned the podium. Kyle Kirkwood was fourth. For a while, I thought Kyle Kirkwood was going to win. I thought he looked very good. Alex Rossi, I thought, had some moments of speed. He was fifth. Will Power looked like he was going to finish last most of the day. He finished sixth. He got penalties. He was in accidents. Absurd. And he finished sixth. Pato O'Ward was seventh. Felix Rosenquist, who started at the back, was eighth. Santino Ferrucci, ninth. I put out a tweet in the middle of the race saying you're going to get to the end of this race and someone's going to finish ninth. And you'd be like, how did that person get there? Life is a meme. I predicted where Santino was going to finish. So life is hysterical. I did this to myself. I would say I deserve 35% of the credit for Santino finishing ninth because life has a fun way of making me laugh. So congratulations to Santino. Great run after absolutely barn-dooring Elio and just slapping him into the wall. Like, that was kind of wild. So anyway, Santino ninth. Ted Chairs was 10th. Teddy Chairs, Theo Portier, who is number one public enemy of the country of Argentina.
He's currently under attack.
He's under attack, so we're going to talk about that too. Christian Lundgaard finished 11th, which is, I haven't talked to him yet, but he was like fifth with one lap to go. I still don't know what happened to him. Maybe he got into a runoff on the last lap, but he was like really, really insanely fast and like in the top five about to pass Rossi, and then all of a sudden he finished 11th. Angus Jalapeno finished 12th. Augustine Canapino, please don't come after me, Argentina. Pietro Fittipaldi, 13th. Rinus VK, 14th. Graham Rahal. Alex Palou, 16th. I'm pretty sure this is like the first time he's finished outside the top 10 since the sun was in the sky. So that's kind of wild. Let's see. Who else we got here? We got Jack Harvey, 17th. Honestly, for the coin team and the craziness of that day, good for Jack. Like, you got to keep just putting away those finishes for the leader circle. Tristan Vautier, which is a name that we have not said in a long time. Tristan Vautier, what a wild scene. Him up there in like third for a while, having a nice day. Tristan Vautier is a guy who I competed against for the Star Mazda Championship in the year 2010. So goes to show you how old both of us are. But cool to see him back. It was kind of a most random thing I think ever. Colton Herta, obviously 19th. Scott McLaughlin, 20th. Stingray Robb, 21st. Linus Lundqvist, Romain Grosjean, Kiffin Simpson, Elio Castroneves, Joseph Newgarden, 26th position after 6 pit stops. And then Christian Rasmussen, P last. From about P19 on, you got a lot of heavy hitters. Like, there are some people that are always going to be there, but there are some people where you're like, yikes, Joseph, Elio, Grosjean, Scott McLaughlin. That's pretty wild.
Some of them couldn't help it, but some of them could.
Some of them couldn't help it. Some could. Lot of penalties. A lot went on in this race, and I guess we should probably start with maybe some of the practice activities, because we saw a near fist fight break out in the practice. I watched Kyle Kirkwood go up to confront Santino about an incident on the track. And I guess we could just let's just get right into Santino talk. And again, this is for IndyCar. This is for the fans that, most of the people that are fans of his probably hate me, which is fine. So they're probably not going to listen to this. But I actually encouraged one of them on Twitter who I interacted with. I was like, hey, love that you cheer for your guy. Please listen to this episode and just see what you think about it. Who knows if that'll happen or not. We appreciate it. But so I think I want to get right into it by explaining why Kyle had the reaction that he did, why Colton had the reaction that he did, and maybe explain why this track, and Scott Dixon mentions this as well, why this track also is sort of at fault for these interactions. When you're out, let's start out by looking at where this practice incident happened with Kyle and Santino. So that area of the track, if you looked at the video, you're going down the hill towards the water, and if there's other cars on the track and you're trying to set up for a lap during practice or qualifying, you are going to run into slow cars in these corners. Like, it's almost a guarantee. When I raced there last year, I can maybe count on one hand how many clear laps I got in practice. It's just everyone is always trying to find a lap. And a lot of the times you just kind of got to respect the line. Like everyone is waiting for a lap. And a lot of the times you see just cars stacked up, because if you're the guy that then passes them, then it all gets messed up. Then people get mad. Then not only do you screw your first lap, but then you screw the next lap. So that area already makes people mad. So then you have Colton and Kyle, who are already backing off to set up a lap. Now, again, unless you have a spotter that's like really keyed up and like really locked in, and like you can't see anything as you're going down that hill in the mirrors. Like very hard to see a car coming through the previous corner. And Santino being on a lap, like I don't know how good it was. He said he was going to be in the top 3, and obviously the car, they were fast, so they qualified 10th. You know, so they had some decent pace.
Penske car,
exactly, good car. Penske car, according to Colton Herta, which is very funny. I mean, it is sort of, but anyway, we see Colton setting up for a lap. He's going slow. Kyle setting up for a lap. Now, Kyle, the funniest thing that I thought was like Santino was like, oh, Kyle swerved into me. Kyle drove in a straight line down the hill. He did block, but you're allowed to do that because you want to make sure that you keep your place in line, because that's where you set up for the next lap. This is, I think when Santino said Kyle swerved into me, I was like, that's actually not what happened. Like if you look at it, and again, I'm trying not to be biased here, but I looked at the video multiple times. Kyle made a move very early to go down the center because he's like, dude, I'm trying to get a lap. He doesn't have any idea that Santino's on a quick lap. But Santino then chooses to go around him and then drive his car directly at Kyle's, not setting up for the corner, but to just like try to get him to run into the wall, essentially. And Santino already knows that he's not going to have a lap anyway, so he chooses to then use his car like a weapon to make sure Kyle feels that he's frustrated. Now, that I've seen before, and again, you got to remember, we as drivers see a lot more than everyone does watching, because we're out there all the time. We're seeing what's going on. This has happened many times before, and it doesn't end up on television. Santino's done the same thing to me, probably done the same thing to several folks. But, again, there wasn't that's just part of what happens, right? I would say it was just a little bit like Kyle made his move to be defensive. Like you're trying to save your spot in line. But then, Colton did the same thing the next corner because Colton's trying to set up for a lap. And like Santino is now just driving through both of them, which kind of also might either screw him up for the next lap, or it was a lot of stuff that if you just look at it, everyone is at fault here. Like because of the track, because of the situation, but it is not like I would say Santino driving his car into Kyle's, like into the wall. That's not Kyle's fault. Like Kyle made his defensive move going straight, and then like that happens, like Santino tries to drive him to the wall and locks up his brakes doing it, and then tries to get Colton too. I don't, it's, we talked about this before, but it's what's necessary and what's not, right? Like what is really necessary. And like when you see afterwards, Kyle literally just went up to him and be like, why did you do that? Like we're all trying to get a lap here. Why did you do that? And Santino jumps over the wall and like goes for Kyle's like throat. First of all, I looked at that and I was like, why? Like, what are you doing? Like,
he's an angry boy.
You shouldn't be this mad about anything in practice. But like, and Santino trying to say that they're all friends. Like that's not true. Like I get it. And again, I want to be, Santino was fast in qualifying. Let's be honest. He has been fast. He had a great Indy 500. And guess what? I am saying this because we had a respectful interaction after the Indy 500. Like, hey, good job. And again, I will always respect someone who races me well. And in that case, Santino raced me completely fine. We raced each other completely fine. So that's great. That's why I feel like I'm able to look at this situation and say, look, what's necessary and what's not. I don't believe that was necessary at all. Yeah. Did it create some hype? Yeah. I think when you see Colton and Kyle's reaction, though, like Kyle was like, what was he mad at? Like, he's like, I swerved into him. It's like, no, I was just driving down the hill. So it's I think everyone can have an opinion on it because everyone is right in their own mind on the internet, which is fine. I look at that all the time. Hey, we all have free will. We can think what we want. But I'm just trying to explain, hey, this is what's necessary. This is what maybe isn't necessary. And love the fact that there is some craziness going on. But let's talk a little bit about the comments that Colton makes. People are like, oh, Santino's beat Colton like 3 for 3 the last race. Like, and they're like, Colton's saying that he's fighting for P20, like that's crazy. And it's like, okay, well, I don't think people understand what, like, because you watch the races, that doesn't mean that you see everything that's going on in practices, everything that's going on in test days, everything that goes on all the time on track, right? I would say that the 14 car Santino, I would say in a lot of situations, there are people that either get into something that you won't see, but there's a reason why there are so many people who are, let's say, anti-Santino because of the unnecessariness of a lot of the moves that are made and some of the driving standards. I would say,
what's the checklist look like right now? Like with this, like that's where I'm at. Like we know we got the Grosjean beef. He's got Grosjean beef that happened at the Sancio out at the Indy Road. Okay. From there, I really don't know. That was really kind of where it was introduced, where the furiousness in the rooster came out. You know, he got a little cocky.
Well, no, but see, you're new to IndyCar, right? So this has been happening a long time. I would say
this is years.
This is years, yeah. So and this is also just a couple like, and it's not like this isn't to, I guess, say anything bad about him as a driver, because I think again, he's proven time after time that he can be a fast driver, right? Like we're never going to discount that. But and does IndyCar need a little bit of this chaos? Yes. A lot of people have been comparing Santino to Paul Tracy. Paul Tracy was down there to start a fight. Like he was always like, Chase, you would have loved Paul Tracy.
And dude, I follow him now on Instagram. I'm not gonna lie. Like I see him at SRX, dude. He's just he's a wild man, dude.
Yeah, but Paul Tracy won a lot. So like he won a lot, and like some people would say he won an Indy 500. But so that I think when you're that successful, I think you can get away with that more, and people understand that that's your thing.
Yeah.
But I do believe that there's a lot of stuff that happens that's just unnecessary for like 20th, right? Like you look at the race, Santino wrecked Elio for 20th. Like that is what happened, and I don't understand why that was. He drove off Grosjean for 15th at the Indy GP for like, what's the point of that? Like if you're fighting for a win, yeah, let's get energized about it. But a lot of it just becomes unnecessary, and it's like it's just silly. So that's the only thing that I try to say to people is like, if you want to be in this sport a long time, if you want to be a champion, you know who has none of these things ever said about him? Scott Dixon, the guy who we interviewed. You know what I mean? Like, there's no wrecking someone for 15th. Like that's just there's a lot of that happens that I think with where he came from, like he got banned from racing in a whole continent, right? And like did some terrible things in Europe when he was younger, like not good stuff. You get banned from racing in a continent, that's kind of crazy. And then, you know, over here, I would say, hey, had some great results. He's got, you know, several top 10s in a row at the Indy 500, a lot of top 10s, a record amount of top 10s. That's great. He's clearly knows what he wants there and does a great job at the Indy 500. But I just think that it's there are many more drivers who feel the same way as like what Colton said, and you won't hear from them because we don't. They're thinking
blow his
about
name up. You don't want to keep
exactly, but they're also thinking about what's necessary and what's not. A lot of them. I don't have a job, so I can say this stuff because like all I get to do is talk about this for now, right? Santino has a job, I don't. All right, you win, right?
You have a job, but we're enlightening the people.
But it becomes an equation of what's necessary and what's not, and I think there would be a lot if Santino respected who he was racing, maybe a little bit more, or maybe just didn't react in like a I'm going to use my car to wreck you type scene. And there are many more scenarios that, again, you just have to believe me because I have spent the last several years racing out there with these folks, and I see all the things that go on that happen in practice sessions, test sessions, qualifying, you know, races that, you know, if they're focusing on the front, you're not going to see what's happening for 12th, right? Like these are all things that I think a lot of drivers see, and there are many moments where you're just like, why did that happen? So again, I just wanted to kind of let people know that there is a reason that these drivers say these things. There is also a way that I believe Santino is a talented driver, and I always want people to know that. But and there are always people that are going to support the bad boy of racing, right? Like, and I love that. Yeah. Go to war for your guy. Like, that's cool.
But you got to win. You got to find a way to win.
There's that, but also just like maybe understand like both sides of it, because I used to just talk like nothing but crap, and I was just like, that guy sucks. Like, like now I'm like, okay, you know what? No, I will fall on the sword of like, I think he's a talented driver, and I believe that Foyt team will go to war for him. And I actually a lot of those guys on that Foyt team are great people. I love a lot of those mechanics. He's got great folks over there.
Hilarious.
Great engineer.
Did you see the guy crying when
that was a great move? Yeah,
Grosjean was over there talking to him, and he just come by the camera and he's like,
yeah, that was good.
We got to get more pit crew guys. I gotta that's gonna be one of my big
get the squad
goals
going.
Is to really just get out there with the pit dogs, dude. I want to get to know them. I want to put them on. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's what I got to work on. But I do have something I want to say about this, just as someone new coming in.
I'm talking a lot, and I'm
practice.
trying not to make it. I'm just trying not to make it like. I want to kind of point out, hey, this is what happened in the past.
These are the facts.
This is what already gives people this opinion. There was a reason that he got into the sport. There's some funding. Boom, here we are, and then. So I just want to let people, like, this is all the information as to why you see drivers reacting the way that they do. And I'm trying to paint a picture. It might not come off the right way, as I said in my tweet, but that's what I'm here to do. So go ahead.
Even if there wasn't the backlog, I mean, it's just enough that he kind of started some beef up, like, in the beginning of the year. So, like, now this is really unfolding, especially for new people coming in. But from what I saw in practice, I agree with you 100% with the Kyle Kirkwood thing, because Santino can say all he wants that he drove into him and swerved into him. Kyle, like you said, he's not worried about Santino. He's focused on his best time. He was just turning. Santino just kind of sent it, and he was just turning. So that's not running into you. That's just turning. Kyle was just turning. That's all that was happening right there. Santino just thought he was going to stop, and he didn't, and he just kept turning. So that's what happens. So it's kind of like, at Black Friday when you're walking down the aisle and you see the last thing on the shelf and hey, it's a great discount, and there's someone just running with a buggy right there. They're expecting you to know they're coming, but you don't, and you grab it, and then they get mad and they try to punch you. And that's kind of what happened with Santino and Kyle. So I just thought it was funny how Kyle reacted, to where it's like he didn't even try to like defend himself, because he's like, what are you doing?
He's like, well, what is happening? Like, I think Kyle's face, I text him after, I'm like, he's like, why did that even, like, why was that, of all moments this year, why was that the moment where someone wanted to throw hands? Yeah. Like, that's kind of wild.
No, it's just, he's got a lot of aggression built up right now, and I see it. I can see it in his eyes. When I look at Santino on the screen, I see it. He wants his respect. And it's like, look, I'm really good at seeing both sides of the story. I'm really good at putting myself in both sides' shoes and trying to really like take all of it in and say, okay, now make a statement. Now say what you feel about it. And after doing that, I mean, I can only hope that the only reason Santino is doing some of these things is because maybe he's just like, somebody's got to do it. I'm going to get him talking. Yeah. Like, because there's really no other reason to be doing it. He did have the P9 finish. Solid.
Great day. Yeah, great
like
finish.
Maybe he raced you clean on an oval. Maybe more ovals will straighten the man out. I don't know. Maybe he needs more ovals to be a little more respectful, because when you get on them ovals with those cars, you, like that obviously seems to bring a little respect out in him. Maybe he needs a little bit more of that action. Maybe he can shave off a win on an oval this season. Who knows? It's just,
I doubt it.
Yeah, I mean,
well, that's all right.
But it's just he obviously he's got a lot of fire in him. I'll put it that way. And it's but it's just knowing when you can't just go in here like with swords like Joey Logano. I have no friends. Like Joey Logano wins, dog. Like just
he's a winner. He's a champion.
Yeah, get in there. It's like Dale. Like, look, think about this. Dale Earnhardt, if he would have never won races, do you think that Dale Earnhardt would have been the man that he was? They would have all been banding together to kick his ass out.
Yeah.
because he was that dude.
I sometimes look at it, which is interesting, but like, think about how Ross Chastain races people sometimes. Like, even I watch and I look at what Ross Chastain does sometimes. Like, why would he do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's also a winner. Like, he's a winner, and like, he's won races. He's at the front all the time. Championship contender. And so, that type of stuff is actually like, as an onlooker, you're like,
because you're up there.
That guy might kind of race like an
ass,
like a douche, but like, but I mean, he wins races sometimes. You know what I mean?
I mean,
so that but also like Ross Chastain, I think, it's just a different world. Now, again, it's not an NASCAR podcast, but this is an IndyCar podcast.
Don't get mad at us. Don't kill us.
But yeah, so I think some of the things that worry people is the reaction. Like, when you're in the car, right? Like, what he got kicked out of Europe for back there, he hit some guy after the checker flag, like in the race, like, just not good stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the times, like, the reaction to, like, let's say people are trying to, like, he drove someone off the track and then you try to repay the favor to him. And then, like, what he does, he is prepared to ruin his entire race to make sure yours is ruined. Like, that's the thing where it's like, I don't know if that's necessary. Like, this is professional motorsport.
So how you
and
win.
Like, if you're still in the fight, you know what I mean? So that's the only thing that I think people do, like, just kind of worry about. And like Scott Dixon, we talk about it later. Like, Scott's like, hey, you know what? I guess it's cool. But like, if Scott Dixon was on the side, like, if he gets wrecked by Santino, I guarantee that, that opinion changes a little bit too. So
I think Dixon would punch, dude. I really do.
He might.
I think Dixon would punch.
But again,
I feel like
we just talked for several minutes about this, the guy who finished 9th, right? So again, it is generating some chatter.
Yeah. I want to say one last thing, though. I just want to invite, if Santino, if you happen to be listening to this, I want to invite you to meditate
He's not.
with me.
Yeah.
Just come meditate, dog.
Yeah.
We're going to get zen.
Now, one thing, I don't believe his comments after the Colton thing, like the Colton and Kyle comments that he made are not good. And I think that's definitely not that's another reason for people to pile on, like, the hatred. Like, he said some not nice things. Yeah, happy June. Like, it's again, you could have your opinion on that, but that's not good. It's just not cool. Like, in professional sports, like, we know what platform we're on. This is a professional sporting platform. That wasn't good. So it's all those small. It's these small things that just add up. Like, it's just adding up to where, like, now all the drivers, like, a lot of them, they just don't care anymore. Like, they're gonna be honest about what they think about this person. And you know what? We're in our era of IndyCar where there's a lot of controversy, a lot of stuff going on. But
the boys are talking, dude. It's good.
I just wanted to kind of give people a perspective of, like, there's a lot that you don't see that these comments have been brewing, right? It's like the hate cauldron. That a lot of there's a cauldron meme that goes around, like the hate cauldron of IndyCar. Townsend Bell's favorite driver is Santino Ferrucci. I think Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s favorite driver is Santino Ferrucci, right? So, like,
about
those guys, like, there's a lot of people who support the guy, and, like, I go to war in the comments with people because, like, they're coming after me for something. I'm like, dude, you know what? I pointed out that Santino made a stupid move taking out Elio. But guess who also made a bunch of stupid moves? Well, plenty of other people. We're going to talk about it in this episode. Christian Lundgaard made stupid moves. We saw Joseph Newgarden make a dumb move. Like, we saw I'm going to say that people do dumb stuff if it's dumb stuff. It's not just one person. Colton did something dumb.
Sent it to the non-deliverable address, dude.
Yes. So that's kind of our Santino section of the podcast. I just want to let people know that there's a reason why people are saying these things. And you might think that because you watch on television and, like, hey, that's a good thing to do. But there's a lot more that you don't see that this is why these thoughts are generated. This is why these, drivers have these opinions. And I just wish, for the sake of his career, that he maybe cleans things up just a little bit, because I do believe he has the ability to, he's been in IndyCar a long time now. But, like, if you want to be around longer, you got to make people want you to be around longer. So, like, that's kind of the point.
He's got some sauce to him. I'm going to say that, man. If he can clean it up,
yeah.
If he does clean it up a little bit, maybe tone the anger down a little bit and find a way to shave off some wins. I feel like,
or like be okay with like if you did something wrong, just be like, yeah, I kind of messed up. But like him trying to blame Kyle for that incident, I'm like, dude,
pick your battles, dude. Yeah,
I was like, he almost sounded delusional. I was like, what did you see? Like, we all looked at the replay. Kyle drove straight down the hill, and you drove your car into him like this because he was in your way. It's like, dude, welcome to Detroit. Like that happens all the time. So anyway, like
do that at the red light.
That's all that I have. No more Santino talk this episode. We're done.
That was the Santino Town Hall.
Yeah, that was the Santino Town Hall. But anyway, there was a lot of other stupid things that happened in this race. To get into the race, I have a lot of notes. I have a Yikes count. I would like to start the Yikes count here.
Oh, let's go.
I made a count of drivers and the errors that they made. Like, because again, this is a difficult track. It was a wild race, but there are many errors. Many errors that we saw, and I'd like you to keep track of the Yikes count. I started with Santino. Santino had one Yikes moment. He took out Elio. Yikes, that was dumb. So Santino only has one, and believe it or not, Santino is on the low side of the Yikes moments. So fair credit. There will be a Yikes trophy winner. Someone has the most Yikes moments of the race. Yeah, this is the Yikes award winner. So we gave Elio one Yikes because Elio went off under yellow. Went off under yellow in the rain. So Elio gets one Yikes moment. Will Power. Will Power had a Yikes moment.
Oh, yeah. I want to talk about that, too, after this.
Yeah, Will Power, I mean, he not only was shouting at the stewards on the radio, but he was in a couple different accidents and it got a drive-through penalty for, I believe, of something. But that was kind of wild.
Two Yikes?
No, Will Power had one Yikes. I just gave him one Yikes, even though it probably could have been a controversial two.
Okay.
So the next one is Teddy Chairs. Ted Chairs, big Yikes. This is a one Yikes, but it's a big Yikes. Because Teddy Chairs drove his car like an absolute Scud missile into the side of Augustine Canapino.
The highway to the
and he
danger
was
zone. Never
going to make that corner. And like that was a mistake. Like that was a big mistake from Teddy Chairs. And not the right person to hit either, because boy, apparently did he hear it. Like we're going to get into this a little bit afterwards.
I'm still translating tweets, dude.
Yeah. Still a lot of tweet translations. A lot of Argentinian fans. I mean, saying awful things. Like you can't do that. But like, dude, that we're going to talk about that a little bit after this race because I want to get into that, and it's absurd what is going on there on the web. But welcome to the internet as well. It's a terrible place. So Ted Chairs, big Yikes. I have no idea how his car survived that. Not a clue. He hit that car so hard. He hit Canapino so hard. I am blown away that there was still even a right front wheel left on that thing. Toughness of IndyCar. So now we're getting into the multiple Yikes. I had a Pelot Yikes. I had a question mark, but I think it was because when Joseph spun in front of him, I don't think Pelot hit him, but he just got trapped there. So that was more like a Yikes. Oh, man.
Then almost
wrong
Yikes.
Place, wrong time. But Pelot was in an accident. So therefore, it wasn't his fault. But boy, Yikes. That was a tough moment. So now let's go on to the two Yikes. So we had a two Yikes of Scott McLaughlin. Scott McLaughlin, a victim of two Yikes moments. Scott spun himself into the wall. And that's a tough mistake. Tough mistake running in the top three. But this just goes to show you how hard this game is. And sometimes people make mistakes. So if I would have done that, I would have got laughed all the way out of the room. But Scott's a winner. So you know what? That's these things happen. So tough to see for Scott. And then Scott's second Yikes moment was the Stingray Robb accident. Oh, well, it's tough. Scott went in down the inside of Stingray Robb, put Stingray Robb in the tires. Poor Sting Bob. I don't know what to say about that one. Never did I think I would be judging an incident between Scott McLaughlin and Stingray Robb. But we saw it. Scott just fed him a little bit of wheel.
It was a Steve Irwin's revenge, R.I.P.
Yeah. So Scotty Mac put Sting Bob in the wall. Tough moment for Stingray. Tough there. Got to feel for him. And then, so that's 2 yikes moments for Scott. So let's move on to Colton Herta had 2 yikes moments. Big, tough moments for Colton. The first one being, I actually don't know what the first one was. Obviously, him driving off the track. Man, that's tough. And so to put that in perspective for people, having raced at this track, that section when you're deep in the pack, which again, he should not have been deep in the pack. Like he was leading. Oh, I know what the second yikes moment is for Colton. I got to tell you about it. But when you're that deep in the pack, that section slows up so fast that I think the only place he could have gone was to the inside, or else he would have hit the car in front of him. So sometimes you got to make that move, and if it's dry there, he's fine. It was not dry, so it was fully wet. He slides all the way into the wall. He's lucky he didn't collect more people. Sadly, he got Tristan Vautier, who was having a nice day, just cruising along. But that was a tough moment for Colton. Again, silly. Like we're here ready to admit that there were some silly moments that happened. Maybe some not so educated decisions. We're an unbiased podcast.
You just clench the mash cheeks tight. Man,
I saw it, and I was like, oh, no. Yeah. No. Oh, and then you can't get reversed, and then he has to go a lap down. It's like, oh, man. That was rough. So anyway, Colton had a couple yikes moments. The second one was when there was a yellow. Colton had fallen back, but when there was a yellow in the hairpin at the end of the long straight, Colton drove into that brake zone, and it was already yellow, and drove straight into the side of Santino.
Oh.
And I don't know if that was on purpose. It looked like it was just like a little hip check for fun. And then you could tell Santino was like, what? And then like swerved at him a little bit afterwards. So the heat was definitely brewing there. There was some heat brewing there. So Colton just fed him a right front, which was, hey, maybe not necessary.
He's playing his game,
about things that are necessary. Maybe not necessary. I'm happy to admit that was probably not necessary.
Said he wanted to play.
Or he just broke late and that was it. But that was kind of wild. So let's move down the yikes count. We're getting up the list now. Joseph Newgarden, I had 2/3 yikes moments. So Joseph had a tough day, man. Tough day. He was in a couple accidents. He ran over some pit equipment, which, again, may or may not be his fault. Joseph had a tough day, man. And then he just put the car in the wall himself. Like, literally just mistake, put the left rear in the wall. Tough. I mean, man.
Indy 5 hangover
people
continues,
made mistakes, dude. People made mistakes on this race weekend. It's kind of crazy. Which, I mean, when I saw him put the thing in the wall, I'm like, oh man, like this is brutal. They also had fuel that couldn't get in the thing. Again, that's not on Joseph, but they put the fuel nozzle in, and that it wouldn't put fuel in his car, and that already put him in a bad spot. So, man, he spun. Joseph had 6 pit stops. I mean, that was a tough day.
It was falling apart.
Yeah, it was falling apart. I mean,
some Penske pain.
Yeah, Penske pain. Yeah, seriously. So we're getting up to the chief of the yikes moments.
Okay.
Friend of the show, friend of mine, Christian Lundgaard had the most yikes moments of all. And we're going to start with turn 1. Turn 1, lap 1, Christian decided to go to the space that is probably least encouraged to go to, but in a hairpin, you're going to go with the tightest radius down the inside. Now, again, he didn't hit anyone, but he sort of caused that accident that happened. The chain reaction. So again, he didn't hit anyone, and if you got space there, you're a racer, you got to go for it. And I think he used that. Then later on, Christian then, I believe, drove directly into the side of another car, just absolutely hammered the side of someone else. I believe I forget who it was now, but he had another moment where he hit someone, and I believe he was penalized. He then came in the pits and almost hit his guys. So that was another yikes moment. He slid that sucker in, almost took out one of his guys. And then the last lap, he went up to 5th, and then for some reason, I don't know what happened, but back down to 11th. So Christian had a couple moments of contact, a couple moments where he hit some people, and I think Christian got
yikes.
I'd say 3-4 yikes moments. And he almost wrecked Scott Dixon too. He made a real late move on Scott Dixon. And again, if that's not Scott Dixon, I think that move ends up with both of them in the wall. But Scott's very smart. And Scott wins the race because did he let Christian Lundgaard past him? Yes, but Scott wins. So, lose one battle, win the war, right? So that was a long list of Yikes counts. You wrote it down. A lot of Yikes counts. Highest Yikes award winner goes to Christian Lundgaard.
It's a one of one Yikes card.
One of one Yikes card. We saw a lot, dude. Like, that's crazy. Like, what'd you think? Like, who did you look like when you see a lot of these accidents, Chase? Like, what do you think? Like, are you thinking like, man, this is kind of exciting to watch, or did you see a couple people where you were like, I don't know about that?
So me personally, I tend to get excited in these moments because of the frustration that's going to build in the drivers. So whenever we're going in lap one, obviously it's wet. You're out there. I'm sure, everyone's kind of prepared for what's to come at a track that is this narrow, this tight around the corners. So getting that wreck right in there in the beginning of it, the spin, everyone stacking up, I knew that, okay, we're going to run a caution lap. It's going to be fine. But these restarts, it's going to get even grittier every time. And it did. It didn't disappoint. So the grittier it got, people getting desperate. Like, I feel like Colton in his situation, he was on the inside trying to, like, just, I don't know what he thought was going to, like angels in the pit wall were going to come down and help his car go straight. I don't know what was going through his mind. And then anytime I can find a way to make a meme about something, I'm going in. That was
Absolutely.
one. Thank you, Colton, for providing that footage for us this week. Hate it worked out that way for you, but it was a fun video. So that happening was a giant moment because there's been a lot of talk about Colton. He was on the pole, man. I mean, like, Colton's still looking, he's trying to get that dub. And, a lot of people talk about this all the time about Colton and how his driving ability is. And even from what I've watched, it just seems like something doesn't pan out, or there's a bad stop, or just kind of like a simple mistake that can take those wins away from him. You got Road America coming up. Could be another good track for him if he can just get out there and perform. And I think he will eventually get one shaved off. I like Colton, is a good dude. And
Colton's going to be fine.
Success.
Like, again, I would still have Colton 10 out of 10. People were like, oh, Santino's had 3 better races than Colton. I was like, Colton's still 7th in the points, bro. Like, people were trying to describe it to me like Santino has had a way better season than Colton. I was like, dude, look at the points. I was like, I know it's been a tough run for Colton, but like, he's still on pole.
That's a conversation right there.
It's kind of funny that people love making that comparison, but Colton's going to be fine. I believe that. Did he make a mistake? Yes, made a mistake. I think Santino also made a mistake. They both made mistakes. Colton, if anything, made more mistakes than Santino in that race. I'm happy to admit that. That happens.
I mean, it's any given Sunday, right?
Any given
Great
Sunday.
Film, but it's also it's a good reference.
We do have in the notes, it was Grosjean who was hit by Lundgaard. So Grosjean was hit by Lundgaard. And then Grosjean's his radio messages, I definitely am a little bit confused. He said the championship is done for me. I was like, well, I mean,
were you there?
Kind of a weird thing to say. I mean, for me, I never like to give up in races. I like to keep going, and it's not like he gave up, but I just don't know. That's definitely a weird vibe. It's an odd vibe there.
This goes back to the beginning of the season, Connor, when I was telling you about, I feel like Grosjean's already low-key defeated. And for him to say that kind of proves it. It's like, because it's just, he has this kind of like grumpiness to him. I don't really understand what it's for or what it's happening. I don't know the man from Adam. So, I just am just calling it like I see it. And I could be completely wrong. Perception is free. But I will just say that it just seems like he's got like this grump fog. And I mean, you got to get over that. You got to find a way. The other thing,
it's like, bro, you got to keep going, man. Like there's a lot of races left. I don't know if he was going to be in the championship fight anyway, but like, you got to still get points for your boys.
You got to
still
right?
The leader circle. Like, there's still a leader circle. There's still stuff like that. So that was definitely a questionable message. And again, I don't have a bad relationship with Grosjean. He's always been cool to me, but definitely some questionable remarks there.
Yeah, no ill will or anything like that. Just kind of like, find a way to pull through, dog. And I did want to mention this about the willpower thing, and I think that this is important to mention. I saw this On
he hit VK, he hit Renus.
Yeah. Well, I saw this on X or Twitter or whatever the other day, and I can't remember who tweeted it, but it said the Flava Flav willpower curse is real. So the last races that Flava Flav has been at for willpower, even though he's a big fan of stuff, they haven't really played out well. Look at the Indy 500. Look at this week in Detroit. I mean, Flava was there. I'm just putting it out there. I'm just saying it. So shout out to whoever tweeted that. It caught it to my attention. I'm like, whoa, we've got something. You know, I'm a big crystal ball guy. I'm just kind of just seeing the signs. I'm reading the signs.
Yes. So there was, my gosh, there was a lot that went on. And you know what? Like there was a ton of things that we could talk about. And I think the reactions on the internet, man, were kind of interesting. I think a lot of us were on the same page. I would have loved to have seen less yellow laps. I think we got to shorten up our yellow times. I think we have to say that. Even Hinch on the broadcast was getting like heated. Like he was like, "Bro, why are we not green? Like
this took him back to New Orleans,
when it was raining,
dude."
Because it would have been sick if we were like when everyone was switching to wet tires. I'm like, boom, here we go, excitement. Let's get it locked in. We're gonna have some people on dry tires, people on wet tires, but they were just still yellow. And so and they said it was an order issue, and I understand that, but man, like we've got enough technology nowadays to where like I just and now again, it's not my job. It's probably the hardest thing in the world to be in race control, and I don't want to, we appreciate those guys for what they do, Kyle and all the folks up there. But I just wish we could have gone green. Like part of motorsport and part of what we say at IndyCar is like, hey, all right, if it rains, well, we're still going. Like we still got to do that. So I just wish we could have gone green a little bit earlier. I wish we could have seen some of the gambles play off, but then it eventually was just like it rained while they were under yellow, and then it went back to dry, and so everyone was on dry tires, and then people kept crashing, so there were more yellow laps. So that I didn't enjoy. I did like the aggressiveness and some of the racing, and the fact that we finally ran green towards the end was interesting. The whole Scott Dixon fuel situation, the Ganassi car fuel situation, that one's a really interesting one to me. We've now seen a couple scenarios where I think the general feeling from other teams and from people is like it is actually kind of wild how good a fuel mileage they are able to get. And I had spoken with an unnamed driver after the race this weekend, and he's like, man, like Scott Dixon's very good at saving fuel, and we're going to talk to them. But Marcus Armstrong does not have that same experience, saving fuel. And both of them made it a lot longer at a higher pace than I would say a lot of people expected. So I think that they're very skilled drivers. But I mean, you got to think of how good Ganassi is, right? Maybe they've there's no reason for them to be able to, not figure out a way to just fill the tank up best, right? Or more efficiently.
They got a shift formula?
No, like maybe it's just like, hey, we were able to get, the most fuel in the car, maybe more than anyone else because we found something that was efficient, right? In the way the fuel system goes in. I don't know, but it does seem like they do have the upper hand when it comes to fuel consumption because I believe Colton and Scott were essentially on the same, I can't really confirm this, but I believe Colton and Scott kind of pitted around the exact same time, and Colton had to pit with 2 laps to go in the race, or else he wasn't going to make it on fuel. Now he was close to a lap down, but like Scott was going real fast at the beginning of that stint to create a gap, and then just won the race with the exact amount of distance he needed. So I don't know Ganassi have everything that they need to win, and they're the smartest when it comes to strategy. But it's kind of getting to a point where it's like, man, that's very impressive when it comes to the fuel mileage that they can make compared to even the other Hondas. So I don't know. I'm curious to see if we see more races where you're like, dang, I don't know how they made it.
Maybe it's their footwork.
It's kind of wild.
Huh? I don't know if you've ever been on the highway. I always play a little game where I'm always trying to challenge myself to see how much I can stretch my fuel mileage with the gas
I do that all
pedal.
the time.
Maybe it's like a mixture of like the PTP with the foot pedal. I don't know.
I don't know what the PTP is, but I
push to pass.
Push to pass. Okay, yeah, I got it.
The
Well, the
nitro
thing is-
fuel, as Pat McAfee says, the cruise
the
in
nitro
America.
fuel, NOS.
Yeah, the NOS.
Yeah, I don't know. So that's just going to be something to pay attention to. You know, if you're in a fuel situation, I think Ganassi have everyone covered. So, they're smart. They know what to do. But yeah, it was a good win from Scott. Great to see Ericsson on the podium again, as we mentioned earlier. Marcus Armstrong, I'm happy for him. He's a good dude. He came out with us after the 500 for a little bit. He's a good dog. But yeah, I had a lot of notes about this race. But let's talk quickly as well about. I mentioned it earlier, but there was some statements released today from Juncos Hollinger and McLaren about Teddy Chairs, our boy Ted Chairs, Theo Porcher. People have been coming after him on the web. Now, this is the second time a driver has been wildly threatened and destroyed on the internet by Canapino's fans, right? By the Argentinian fan base. Now, again, that the internet, I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain it. The internet is never going to not have terrible things said about people. Like, sadly, we are never going to get rid of that. But I don't understand why there is so much of that or why people want to do that. There's a passionate fan base, but then there's what good does it do anyone to threaten someone's life over turn one racing accident, like a turn one, I don't understand that. I hate that, that this issue has to be brought up because it's a shame to see for Theo, who I think is a young lad. But, and again, this is a lot that you probably don't see. Like Canapino put out a statement saying he isn't seeing it, but he's got so many fans and they're so passionate, they probably flood his mentions. He doesn't really probably look at anything. And honestly,
so what was the original
most drivers,
thing?
Huh?
What was the original tweet? Because that's what I'm looking at now. I'm just in a sea.
But there is an original tweet. But that's the thing. There is no tweet. It's not like Teddy said something. It's all of Argentina just goes after him because they see him hit Canapino and they want to destroy him. So and I've seen this before with other
this
fan
is
bases.
Multiple death threats.
Apparently, I obviously don't know, but. My mentions, I mean, I've had some terrible things said about me too, and some wild stuff said. But again, you won't see it unless you're in my mentions, right? So I don't know. I don't have Theo's mentions, right? I don't know what's going on there. But these people could also just tag him, and you got to remember too, when you respond to someone on Twitter, if you start a tweet with just their name, only people that follow you and them are going to see that. So they could kind of maybe low key send it to him, but they know he gets it to. They know they get it to him. You can also DM people too, and he probably I got it. When I had an accident with Pato, right? Pato's got a very passionate fan base. We had an accident in 2020 at Road America, which again, a lot for some reason, people thought that was on me, which it wasn't. It's the driver's responsibility following to, it's their responsibility. But Pato and I had a wreck, and I was getting crucified in the DMs from the Mexican fan base. And his fan base, and it's so I understand that. I get it. And again, these are two different groups, and that's fine. But these are people who have huge fan bases, and we love that. That's good. Great to have drivers with these passionate fans. That's not a bad thing. I was prepared for it. I went through it. I'm like, all right, whatever. You know what I mean? But I also have very thick skin now.
It's
but
a whole other place too. It's a whole other country. We if you're not there thriving in that culture, you don't know what's normal and what's not.
Yeah, we don't know. I'm not familiar with the cultural differences,
not
right?
I'm not for it, but I'm also just it's just when you were saying, why do we have to do this? It's just dude, people do things, dude. I don't even know how to explain it at this point. It's just pretty much anything you can think of, someone's doing it or has done it. So it's just when people just say this stuff, they spew it, they have no consequence. It's easy, right?
Yeah, sadly, the internet is free to just say whatever you want. Yeah. And that is a dangerous thing. And so I do think it's kind of odd, though, that this has now happened a couple times and there's no real consequences for anyone. We're just, obviously putting out statements is very important, but that doesn't, like, I don't, you know, there's no way to actually police this. Like, unless, McLaren says they block all these people, which again, that's good. That's like the easiest thing to do. You just silence those people from your own mentions. But like, the sad part is it's never going to go away. It never will. We are in an era where you could say whatever you want to whoever you want. And like, I love using the block button. I've blocked a ton of people because I don't care. I can limit what I see, right? And,
that's your choice.
You know, maybe it was new for Theo, obviously. Now, again, he made a dumb move on Canapino, like completely dumb. We already acknowledged that. But the fact that you then have to go through, you know, reading that stuff, I read everything. And a lot of what, you know, people see on the internet, you will never see what we see. Like, you will not be in our mentions. You will not understand fully how many messages we get about certain accidents, about certain things. So, you know, I know that there is some terrible things to be said, and I hate that they're saying that. So, like, the only thing that I can say is just be better, right? Like, there was wild messages, like even Ricardo Juncos, who's a very good friend of mine. I like him a lot, but there were some wild messages that got translated on the radio. I don't know if you saw those, but man, he said some wild things about Teddy Chairs, which again, I don't think that's good either. But we also, there's a lot of drivers, like, I curse on the radio. And I don't really curse. I don't curse on this podcast. I try not to curse like ever on interviews or anything like that. Cause like I like to have, you know, my parents told me to have a nice, clean mouth. I gotta be, you know, I gotta say good words.
I had dial soap in my mouth a few times. I've had dial put in my mouth as a child a few times.
Yeah, there you go. Soap in the mouth. You know, that was the thing as a kid. You know, you don't say bad words. But like, man, when I'm in the heat of the moment, like I will say some stuff in that car where I'm like, you know, angry words, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of energy and there's a lot of stuff that's said on the radio for sure that, you know, I'm sure even Will Power is probably regretting what he said about Max Pappas on the radio, right? Like, that's kind of wild. But there's so much emotion, there's so much adrenaline that things are said. Now, again, this is not an excuse for anything. Like, I do believe what Ricardo said on the radio. Man, that's wild. That's not great. But you can't, you just be better. Like, just be better. And I don't know if the Argentinian fan base is going to listen to this. Probably not. But
we'll have to translate it.
It is sad that we have to go through this situation again where, like, they were going after Callum like crazy. They're going after Theo. And do the statements do anything? I don't know. I would like to think so. But I just always want to tell people, like, be better. Like, look, I try to, if you come after me, I'm going right back after you because that's what's going to happen. But like, that only goes so far. You know what I mean? Like, let's just, like, it's never going to go away, which is the most annoying part about it. But like, it is kind of wild to see that Juncos, I guess, it's a wild situation. I'm curious to see as we go, you know, how this situation develops. I think Agustin Canapino couldn't be a nicer dude, honestly. Like, that's what's kind of crazy. Like, Canapino is not saying these things against Theo, but there was a situation where he liked some tweets about it. Like, he liked the tweet that said Callum Porcher, and that's probably not great. But like, dude, Agustin Canapino is a really nice guy. I've very much enjoyed. I sat next to him at a couple autograph sessions. I really enjoy the guy's presence. Super, just he's got great energy and loves what he's doing. So again, I don't think, and he tries to issue a statement, and again, there's probably going to be some translation stuff that maybe doesn't translate as well as it might in his own native language. But you know, I don't know.
You can't blame him for the words of his fans and the people.
Yeah,
essentially.
I mean, I like, you gotta condemn the attacks. You gotta be like, hey, come on, people. Like, I know you support me, but
shame.
Don't say that stuff. And again, maybe his statement could have been better there. But like, again, we will never have control over what people say. Like, I will never have control over what my fans say. I will never have control of what other people say. Like, that's just kind of the world we live in. And boy, is it brutal. It's no excuse for it, but I you know, to be honest with the people, like, dude, it's never going to go away. And I wish it would. I wish with everything in my soul, we could see a lot more positivity on the internet. And like, people being like, hey, you know what? That's fine. You made a mistake today, but hey, maybe tomorrow will be better. I don't know. Like, that's never going to happen. So, hate to see that for Theo, for Teddy Chairs. Teddy Chairs seems like a nice young fella. Augustine Canapino, nice guy as well.
Nice young lads.
But there's definitely, we have this internet era where, is it nasty? So be nice. Someone be nice to someone else. Let's just do that. I had a couple small things that I wanted to say. I think 5 Hour Energy might save IndyCar.
What?
This is really random, but I would like to let everyone know, and this might be like a 4 minutes of fun segment for the 4-time Indy 500 champions. I have seen a 5 Hour Energy commercial with with Pietro
Fittipaldi gonna be like, what?
Oh man, I got too many notes in here. I've seen a commercial, a 5 Hour Energy commercial with an IndyCar in it and Pietro Fittipaldi in it on multiple different television channels.
They're excited.
That's the only other IndyCar ad that I've seen other than Shell. Like Shell puts out a great one, but that's not on like I was watching South Park last night. Guess what popped up? 5 Hour Energy IndyCar commercial. I was like, hey, is IndyCar back? Like, are we back? So shout out 5 Hour Energy for like putting their car, which looks cool, on a television platform where we can know that it exists. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to them. 5 Hour Energy might save IndyCar. I don't know.
I'm going to vouch. I've seen it myself.
Yeah.
I've seen it down here in Nolans. I've seen the commercial myself. So I would say it's kind of back.
We are so back, baby. Man, it was a lot. Chase, is there anything else did you want to get to before we get to Scott Dixon's interview? I mean, I felt like there was so much that I wanted to talk to you. I really hope I presented this right. Do you think I presented it right? Like,
I think you did great, dude. I mean, it's just two dudes just chopping it up, dude, talking about Detroit. I mean, we're doing it to it. I do want to say I'm finally fully rested from the Indy trip. Finally, it took about a week, but we got back there. And yeah, just really excited, looking forward to the races that we have coming up. Definitely going to try to get to a couple more races. I did get to talk to some folks this week. I had some good chatter, maybe getting some more than Parkside cards.
Nice.
Very soon. I want Parkside. Yeah. I need more Parkside cards for myself. Need them.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I think we will see some news in the coming days. Just real quick before we get to Scott Dixon, obviously we see the situation with Meyer Shank, right? So
yeah,
Tom
Blomqvist I was going to ask you about that.
Tom Blomqvist is no longer in that seat, and they announced it on the broadcast that he would no longer be there for the season, which I think is pretty much that's what it looks like.
So why didn't they come out directly? That was my question I wanted to ask you. So it's like if at first it was like we're going to sit you. And then it was
it's because they didn't have a plan yet. Yeah, they didn't have a plan yet. They I think the quick and easy scenario for them, right? You got to think Elio is part owner of that team. So Elio is a guy that they probably don't have to all of a sudden like add money to. Like they don't have to give him 20-30 grand a weekend to race. And with the amount of accidents that they've had this year, which is, it's not a ton, but like an accident at Indy is an expensive one.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just trying to figure out, hey, right now this is the most sustainable way we can do it. And Elio is a good guy, right? He's a good guy. I guess he was quite sick on the Detroit weekend, I heard. So that's a shame. So he was dealing with some sicknesses there, which definitely don't help performance. But they're going to go with him, I think, until after Road America, and then I believe we'll probably hear about something there. I've definitely tried to make my call. I feel bad for Tom because I like Tom Blomqvist a lot. He's a good friend of mine. Him and his girlfriend are great people. And I think I started this thing about like getting fired in the middle of the season because I've never seen this many in-season firings since I got fired.
Like when that happened to you,
I've never seen this before. Yeah, it's wild. But it also goes to show you how important these leader circle points are. Like they're concerned about not getting this car, the 66 car, in the leader circle. Now, again, they had a tough weekend in Detroit, so they're going to need to have a near perfect end of the season, like a really strong run to be all right. Now, the 20 car also has the same thing, but I guess that's still a wild situation. A lot of people that are struggling there towards the back of the grid, but but I believe I know the direction that, I called Mike Shank. I had a great conversation with him. I have a lot of respect for Mike, and I hope with every soul in my body that I can be a part of his operation at any point again, whether it's on a sports car side or the IndyCar side for sure. But I think we'll see what direction they go eventually. I don't believe I'm going to be ready, but I don't believe it's going to be me. I don't. Well, I know it's not going to be me, but I know I'm going to be around and be around to help if there is another situation that arises. But I think there's also we'll talk about it when it's announced. And I wish Elio all the best. I tried with everything in my body to be like, Mike, come on, maybe I can do Road America. I got my seat. Like we have run with you guys before. But yeah, it just wasn't meant to be, sadly. But I'm going to be ready for it no matter what.
The weeks will keep rolling on, man.
Yeah, but sad to see for Tom. Sad to see for Tom, but we will see, I'm sure, some news about who's going to be in that car for even more of the season after this week. So other than that, I think we can probably get to Scott Dixon. And after Scott Dixon, we will make some Road America predictions. We will also get you all of the television information that you need to watch the Road America race this weekend. So with that, let's get to our interview with the most recent winner, Scott Dixon. Well, folks, we are lucky enough this week to have a returning guest to the show. He needs no introduction. The winner of the Detroit Grand Prix, he went into Chevy's house and all of Honda dominated. They swept the podium. Scott Dixon, the PNC Bank wagon looked good up there. How we feeling? You guys dried out? Everyone's good? There was a little bit of rain there. We feeling all right?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. It was, I guess, what you expect of Detroit race, whether it's on Belle Isle or downtown street race. But I think, just mixed conditions. There were some people that were, fairly aggressive. My race, as I spoke to you earlier, was actually not too dramatic. I kind of had a little bit of heat early on with the 27 and the 45 with some big, kind of lunges. But actually, once I got back in the pack and I was right by Santino, who'd been staring everybody up all week, he was pretty relaxed, man. So we were on the kind of traditional strategy, and then with actually 50 laps to go, I'm like, man, do you guys think we should pit now? Just because I feel like we're going to get a ton of caution, and they blew that off, but we took the next one, and obviously, it was a little bit easier to get to the end from that point.
It was quite funny. So around that time, like let's say lap 50, I get a text from Marco Andretti. Marco Andretti says, Scott's going to win this, isn't he? I said, yep. And so we're out here throwing out predictions very early. It did seem like your type of a race to where like there's going to be a lot of there's going to be a lot of things going on. And you guys just play it smart. You see exactly, you and Mike Hull can read the future. You got a little crystal ball there. It's very exciting.
Mike, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, you guys are smart. And but when you see all the yellows happening and the rain, I mean, that's hard to keep your cool as a driver sometimes too, because you want to make the right call. You want to be ahead of the game. You want to be like, shoot, okay, did we really need to be on the rain tires? Did we really need to be on the dry tires? How did that go about midway through? Like there must have been a ton of conversation on the radio, I assume.
Yeah, it was tough. I think the rain was something that a lot of us weren't expecting. We actually had a little bit of rain just as the race was getting going, right off pit road.
I saw that, yeah.
Started, I'm like, oh god, this is going to be interesting. And it kept kind of moving. Like you first got it like in turn, 4 and 5, and then it kind of moved to turn 2, and then it got really wet down 3. And I don't know why the caution was that long, to be honest. I don't know if there was a bit of mayhem going on with that one, but had the restart happened a lap or two earlier, it could have been like a block track, man. It was definitely pretty slippery out there, but I said, if it's going to stop raining, we're fine. It's going to dry out. So there's no point going to wets at that point. But I think even the cars that did go to wets, it was early on enough, and especially on the front end of all those cautions that were yet to come, you were still going to be in hopefully a not so bad spot. But luckily for us, we kind of the team made the right call on that one, and later on, obviously it helped us to kind of stay up where we needed to be. But the other tricky thing about that place, man, is if you decide to stay out, you've really got to gas it, because pit lane is actually very quick to get through, and it actually caught a lot of people out. So even when we went from first or second we only dropped back to 13th because a lot of people, didn't really, pack up and, get where they needed to be. So, yeah, it was definitely one of those races where it threw everything at you, man.
When you look at, obviously there was a lot of controversy over the weekend, right? A lot of arguing, a lot of people throwing words at each other, which is hilarious. I get it's good. But when you see what happened in the race, like I'm on my couch being a spectator, and I enjoyed a lot of it, a lot of the argy-barginess, but the track is also quite small. So like it forces, I would say, drivers into that position to where like you have to really almost use your car sometimes to move someone around. How do we fix it? How do we, is it on us as drivers, you think, to take responsibility and be like, hey, we got to make this look a little bit better? Or is it just like kind of where we're at, like that bit of that track? It's a tough question because I love how we race sometimes, but there was also a lot of things that you're like, why did that happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a lot of the times too, it's your usual suspects, man. That that end up in those positions. I haven't watched the race fully back, but I caught a lot of it on the big screen on the replays when we were under caution. And I think that there's two kind of issues, right? The track plays short, so like in practice, it's very difficult. The first session and what they've been doing with that has been fantastic, and splitting it into two groups, especially on the green tire run or the soft tire run at the end, which that track definitely needs. But in practice, like the last kind of 15 minutes, you don't even get a lap. Everybody's kind of stopped in turn 5. That you had the Santino issue with the 26 and the 27, and loads of others that kind of went through that same scenario when people are trying to kind of jump positions. But I don't know. I think if they add, even if it's to turn 1, if they could go a block further, that would really clean a lot of things up. Just adding, it'd be a much bigger straight on the back as well. You would create some distance for other cars. Some of the areas where it gets really tight, I don't know. It's hard, man. I'm not sure. Like, it's really cool what I think everybody's done to get that race back downtown. But a lot of times too, I miss Belle Isle because it was such a fantastic track, man. It raced really well. It was really tough to drive. It was really physical. So yeah, I haven't really got an answer for you, man.
No, I know, that's all right. It's definitely a tough one because I think a lot of people, I do like the argy-barginess. I mean, our cars are tough, right? Like, it's pretty impressive to see what they dealt with.
Yeah, man.
But like, I think if a lot of those moves, if they're at a road course with maybe a little bit more space, they actually end up being all right sometimes. You know what I mean? But because it's so tight and you're trying to force these things to happen, people end up in bad spots. So I like Detroit downtown as well, but there were also a lot of penalties that were handed out. You think the stewards were fair in kind of what they were? I mean, I know it's the tough thing for you to talk about. I don't want to talk about it a lot, but I would say I thought that they were like, hey, they were enforcing the rules. When someone did something egregious, it was like, all right, time to hand this out. Do you agree?
Ultimately, it's a job nobody wants, man.
Worst job in the world.
It is
like an NFL
job.
ref.
It is, it is, man. It's horrendous, because you've got, people on either side, and that they must have just been so overwhelmed, man. Because if you got to review them in, chronological order and try and get through it, and then you start another race, portion of the race, and you go back to caution again, they're probably just trying to filter through it. So, I think the driving standards are a little bit iffy in some areas, but, sometimes it's paybacks too. If you get angry and somebody's done it to you, then, if they didn't get penalized, then you're going to try and penalize them yourself. But I think it also races similar to what Nashville Street Course did, man. And honestly, I'd get out of a race like the first one, I think, and half the race was under caution. And I'm like, man, that must have been a dreadful race. And then every fan I saw were like, whoa, my God, that was the best race I've ever watched. So I think you're going to have a little bit of action. I know it's a fine line between, penalizing people, but also keeping, the race and what it really needs to be and having a good, hard physical race. So, it's a tough one. You're going to have people on either side on that one, man.
Yeah, for sure. Chase, I'm going to let you jump in here with Scott.
Congrats on the big dub. I love how you said Chevy's house, Connor. It's wild at Chevy's house. Let's be honest. It's pretty crazy out there. That was a great fun race. There was a lot of things to talk about. There was a lot of memes created. It was fun. It was fun. But you and your wizardry and the squad, y'all pulled it off again for the second one. I got to get you 2 Bass Pro Shop hats now. So we'll just go ahead and mark that down. We'll keep them stacking.
You coming this weekend? We're going to Bass Pro, and there must be one up in Elkhart somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. We're gonna have to find a way to get back to it. But I wanted to ask you. So a lot of chatter about Detroit, the street circuit coming from Belle Isle. I threw another wrench in this weekend, and a lot of people have been talking about it. I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts. Hypothetically speaking, what would you think about Michigan going back to an oval if it could happen? Would you be down for something like that? There's been a lot of talk about it since Sunday, and I'm seeing more and more every week.
I welcome ovals, man. I know we've got a few new ones back this year. Obviously, probably not by choice, but just what the series had to do. I think the last time, which Michigan is a sister track to the one out in California, and that the last races that we had there, and Connor can chime in on that as well, but were fantastic. And I know Michigan would be the same way. You kind of had 3, 4, 5 lanes that you could use. The package was very good. I think that's the only defining part. But ultimately, man, you've got to go to places where you get people to put their butts in seats. That's what it comes down to. And I think, and I hope going back to Nashville and then obviously Milwaukee later in the year that they can achieve that. But we've also seen that movie several times and it hasn't played out well. So hopefully there's going to be a market for it. Michigan, kind of mixed feelings on when we left there because it just there weren't that many people that came. The racing is fantastic. I totally agree with that. And it's fun. And those big ovals are a lot of fun, man. So, I'm up for any race, but for the good of the sport, man, you got to have people sitting in the seats.
That's a good point. I mean, I completely agree. I think it would be awesome to race there, but you're right. Like we mentioned it on the show before. Like if people are going and people are wanting to consume it in person, that's really the most important thing because a promoter has to sell it. You have to be able to make it a financially plausible event, a profitable event. Speaking of ovals, let's go back to Indy really quick. I haven't got to talk to you after the 500. You obviously had a pretty good day from where you guys started.
Could have been better.
Yeah, same. But there was, when I was told about midway through the race that I was on the same strategy as you, I was like, can't wait. I was like, I love what's going on here. Like we were kind of in the same spot. If we didn't get that last yellow, we were going to be very happy. I think that last yellow kind of helped people get on the right situation. But you guys obviously didn't have, let's say, the normal Ganassi pace, like raw speed all month. I thought.
100%, yeah.
Race-wise, though, obviously you guys showed up with a great race car again and put yourselves in a position to be successful. Were you guys pretty much satisfied with like, hey, that was a good day for what in the situation that you guys knew you were in?
Yeah, Indy, as you know, man, you only go there to win. You kind of just segment that race as its own single thing, and I don't know. It was a bit of a rough month, to be honest. As you mentioned, we didn't have the speed, which was kind of a shock. I think the last 4 or 5 years we've been fighting for the pole or for the front row, and man, I was way out of that, and even our best car with Alex was not really in it too. So that was definitely frustrating, and we kind of went down a garden path with changing the engine and the gearbox all on qualifying day, and that put us into an even more bad situation. But the race car was good, and honestly, the last part of the race, we had a really good restart on that last kind of segment, and then, had really good in and out laps for that last, kind of green flag stop. And you're right, it totally would have been different, I think, had the 12 car not had the caution. And I think for a lot of us, it would have flipped the race. And we would have probably been kind of not bringing a knife to a gunfight at the end there, which it definitely was. Man, for the last portion, I was pretty much flat out the whole way around the track, just trying to keep up in the toe, and that was it. That, or we just didn't gear long enough because we didn't have the straight up speed. So kudos, man, to the teams that rocked it. They were damn fast. They did a really good job. It was a fantastic show. The restarts were wild. Like it was. Yeah.
We spent several of those restarts around each other too. I got trapped on the bottom lane one time, and I'm fairly sure you got to the top. Yeah. And and I was so mad because it was a crazy situation.
You got nowhere to go, man. You just got nowhere to go. You get checked up, and then the outside lane just keeps going. And I did that a couple of times. And then after that, I was like, I am never going to the bottom again, even if I'm stuck down there. So, but, ultimately the restarts were pretty fair. There were no, massive crashes on those restarts and things like that. Everybody did a pretty good job, even though, you were touching people and moving around and things like that. So, yeah, it was a wild race, man, and glad that it played well on TV and they got the numbers that they should have. And man, it's a crazy event, but ultimately, man, you're never happy unless you win at that place.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine. I now I got to ask, my teammate and you had a bit of a coming together. I did a lot of. Did you have a conversation? Obviously, you guys are both champions and everything, but did you guys have a chat about that? Would you have maybe done things a little bit differently, or was there? What do you think?
We had many conversations. Yeah, we had many conversations, and I after things like that, I always I called Dario, then I called Hildebrand, I called Briscoe. Like I call a lot of people just to say, hey, what's your feeling on it?
Yeah,
because I want to have honest opinions and see where it goes. And I honestly didn't know he was there. If you look at the replay, he's already behind the 12. The 12's beside me. I've got to run on him, and then he crosses over. So the first time I actually see him is when he's in the grass and hits me. It's because I look in the mirror then, and you can see it from my onboard as well. And
he came up from really high with a head of steam and
a ton of speed, man. Yeah. And honestly, I just didn't see him because I wasn't looking in that direction, and I didn't think that was coming. So, Ryan's a good friend. We spoke about it, the night of, and then obviously before the banquet, we chatted a little bit as well. But feel bad for that situation. It could have been way worse in the way that crash played out. But it sucks, man. And I didn't react to it, so I wouldn't have changed anything I did. I just didn't know he was coming there.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's right. I had to ask. we want to get all the right opinions in.
I get it.
Indy, I think looking back at it, you mentioned it, but there were not a lot of multi-car accidents. Like it was when people crashed, it was because I think everyone was on the limit. Like you saw Bolton, like he just lost it. Power, like he was fighting the car. Do you think this year, with the way the cars were and what people are trying to get out of them to find that speed, I mean, do you think we're kind of more on the limit than normal when it comes to race trim, just to try to get that extra bit of front grip to try to get that run?
Yeah, I think some people are going to be more on edge, and obviously you have some cars that just aren't. Like I was surprised Will lasted as long as he did, to be honest.
Oh my gosh,
I saw that car many times, and I'm like, man, I'm glad I'm not driving that thing.
Yeah.
But the other thing too was kind of weird is that there was zero deg this year. Like I feel like you could run your fastest laps, and I kind of miss the deg side of what Indy brought to it. So you had to manage the tire. The last kind of 10 laps, 5 laps of a stint were really tricky. So I don't know if they'll do that, but honestly, I think in the way that maybe there was little dig, whether that also backs up with maybe there was a fair few cautions, but the second lane was pretty usable, man. That's what I was shocked about. And I'm not normally a guy that really goes up there much because I'm like, it's pretty risky. But I used it a ton, and it was interesting to see that it really works. So I don't know if that was the tire as well, but yes, everybody's on the limit, man. Like it's a crazy race.
Definitely more so on the limit than I think people can visually see. And when you see guys like champions like Power just having an accident, you guys like Colton, who we know are very good. Yeah, it's just fascinating to see. I mean, that's just the kind of the era that we're in, I think, right now.
I agree, man. The cars, we've had them for a little while now. So, I think everybody's kind of circulated too, even when you talk about, teammates that have moved to other teams and you're talking about setups, and some of them are like, well, they're actually quite similar to what we ran last year, so it's, everything's circulated. So a lot of the cars are quite similar as well. Just how you use them, I guess. But
yeah. Chase, go ahead here.
Yeah. So kind of going back to some stuff that happened this past weekend, Sky, you've been in this series for a long time. You've seen a lot of guys come and go. You've seen you've seen a lot of shenanigans. I'm sure you've seen a lot of craziness. I want to know some of your thoughts on the Santino Ferrucci deal, and I want to know if you can possibly compare him to somebody from the past that, for better or worse, trying to maybe make the sport a little bit more in a spotlight by their antics, or whether it's just pure ignorance. I don't know. I just wanted to ask you specifically if you've ever seen something like this before, if it reminds you of anything, and do you have any advice for the guy?
I think Santino, I probably couldn't compare him to anybody. I think he's his own person. And, honestly, it was a weird situation. But, going back to the conversation with Connor about, the track layout, it just promotes that, which, love it or hate it, it creates conversation. It creates, people really talking about it, whether you're on, Santino's side or if you're on, the Kirkwood side or even Herder's. But, he was on a lap. I think Kirkwood obviously didn't know if he was or not and was respectfully trying to take his place because he was waiting in line for the others. Santino ultimately had nowhere to go because the next two corners were going to be a traffic jam. But it is frustrating when, you're on a lap and you want to get it in because you might be 22nd and then you get your one lap in that you might only get the chance to do once in the session and you might be in the top 10 or 5, So it is frustrating from that level. What happened after that, it's just your comical banter, which I thought was pretty funny. But then people take, sides on that too and took it maybe for a little bit more than what it really was. But I think it's good for the sport, man. You need it. You're always going to have those kind of, different people that spark up in different ways. But, I think it's important to have, a little bit of aggression, a little bit of banter and people like it, man.
So in this show, we are definitely going to have quite a conversation about some of those antics because there is some, I think that's just purely like, I don't know if this is necessary at this level, but yes, I am also fully, now I don't like Santino. I've been very, very I've voiced that opinion for a long time, only because of the way I've been raced on track, right? But like when you think of all the years, a lot of people like to try to compare him to like Paul Tracy, but like Paul Tracy won a lot of races. So like maybe there's like that's the thing that I think right now is you gotta, there's the side of like, hey, I love, you cheer for your guy, right? Yeah. But there's also sometimes where when you see some things as drivers and you're like, well, that really wasn't necessary for anyone. You know what I mean? That's kind of when it's like wild. And again, I love that it causes conversation, right? We need more than anything right now, conversation about our series.
100%. So I think we can thank Santino for that.
There you go. We go right.
That's the one thing. Congrats.
We're all going to send him Christmas cards. So let's look at the weekend ahead. We got Road America coming up, and then right afterwards. Now, right afterwards, there is a Milwaukee test, but there's also. Do some of you guys have to try to get to Le Mans? Is there some sort of is that a conflict of dates, or is that all right? Will you guys be able to test there fine?
No, it was a complete nightmare, man, honestly. And
because I only heard about that recently from Polo, and I was like, oh, wait, what? Like, there's a conflict in the test, but you guys, there's a difficulty there.
So looking forward to Road America. Obviously, that's going to be a ton of fun. But then, quickly. So I think the Milwaukee test was originally a Wednesday the following week. Then it was moved to Tuesday. IndyCar thought they were helping us with that. But ultimately, when, you talk to the ACO, they're like, if you miss the driver's briefing on the Tuesday, you're not running. So that took 4 or 5 of us out of it. So,
wow.
The latest I've heard is that, a few of the teams may test at a later date of Milwaukee, which will also help the supply chain of the issues that we've got with some of the pieces that are coming for the car. I think most of it is the
hybrid,
the hybrid test. So the bell housing, I think, has had some issues with production, so it may actually help that there. So I leave Sunday night straight to Le Mans, get there Monday, and then I'll be there for the driver's briefing on Tuesday. But the ACO are very particular, and they didn't want to create a precedence of us not turning up to the driver's meeting. So because I just like, hey man, can we watch it on Zoom or can we just get a video recording of it? But they do a really cool thing there actually at Le Mans is that at the driver's briefing, they have every single flag marshal comes to it as well. And you kind of shake their hands or say hi to them. And there's hundreds of them, man. So I get the respect level and making sure that you can do it. It was just a bad situation where IndyCar didn't realize the conflict and the size of Le Mans and how long it takes. But you typically have to get there on the Monday or the Tuesday to make the whole week. So hopefully, and fingers crossed right now, it looks like everything will be okay.
Yeah. No, I hope to do Le Mans at some point in my life. It's looking like maybe, not next year, but maybe 2026. It's looking like I would love to do that. That's honestly exciting for you guys too. Busy summer as well, because you go right from, we've had, you've been weeks in a row now in an IndyCar.
Yeah, so I think from Indy Road Course to when our, next break is, it's 10 weekends in a row. So You know,
Man.
as a driver, man, that's cool. That's cool.
Oh,
I love
yeah.
it.
I mean, that's the dream. That's the
Them
dream.
reps
You're
in,
like,
dude.
we're on the road, you know. I mean, I'm sure it's tough for you. You'd like to see the family probably a little bit more, but hey, this is what
I'll see them
do.
in England on the way over and then on the way back for a few days before we go to Laguna. So, you know, and then they're actually after that trip, they're back in America for the summer. So, yeah, but it's fun, man. Like, honestly, that race is the only thing that comes close to the Indy 500, just the sheer size of it, the tradition, you know, probably 250,000 people. Like, it's just a wild race, man. And yeah, you got to do it. You'll love it.
I hope to. Hey, real quick. What did you think of our episode of 100 Days to Indy? Both you and I got a full episode of 100 Days to Indy. Did you get to see it? I watched it. I thought you guys look much cooler than me, but did you enjoy it? Was that a good process, you think?
Obviously I was there for the filming, but full disclosure, I haven't seen the the episode. Yeah.
He lived it. He watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched it, but we were on a fun trip, man, and we were trying to do it in ways, but you know, they got to see a bit of the Cayman Islands, which was fantastic, and obviously to hang out with the Simpsons was a lot of fun. So yeah, I hope it's playing well, man. I haven't caught up and seen any of it yet.
I was told that people did like it, so I said that's probably because of the Scott, but I'll take, since it was a co-episode, I'll take a little bit of that as well.
Of you, man.
I'll take a little bit of it.
It was a group effort. It's coming to Netflix too.
Oh, there you go. We'll be on Netflix. Yeah,
it'll be on Netflix.
I believe will be on Netflix. Yeah,
fantastic. That's good. I haven't heard the response of season 1 on Netflix. Hopefully, it's, you know, getting a ton of views. I feel like I actually haven't seen any of the episodes, but some of the feedback that I get is that, you know, there should be a little more conflict. You know, I tried to help that last year with Pato, and you know, I guess that it didn't really, you know, get much out of that either. But there we go.
That's all right. Hey, so what do you think as we go forward here now? We're in the thick of the season. You know, you're at the front of the championship hunt yet again. But I would say we have seen quite a lot of ups and downs for several other entries. But as we kind of get into, you know, just more and more relentless races, we'll have a little bit of a break in between Road America and Laguna. But I mean, this championship, would you say when I look at it, it's like the front is very tight, but a lot of people, because they've had really difficult races, you've got guys that are way far behind, like Joseph, Scott, like people that are normal championship competitors. You've actually got quite a bit of a gap between certain people. Do you expect to see that change, or do you think this is really going to be probably a 2 or 3 horse race right at the front?
It always changes, man. It just takes one race. You know, some of those guys are close to a 2 race, you know, kind of points out of it right now. You know, some of them are approaching 70, 80
they need
to 100
drop.
points. It's a big, you know, it's a big one to recover from. But dude, I remember even the championship in 2020, I think I had a 115 point lead, you know, with about 6 to go and almost, you know, lost it, you know, not almost, but, you know, it was a lot closer. So, anything can happen, and that's what's really cool about IndyCar racing, man. Is you look at Joseph. We'll get, you know, on a fantastic run, probably with, you know, Iowa again. Iowa's changed this year, which will be interesting to see how that will play out. But even Milwaukee, and then, you know, Nashville. You know, a lot of new tracks, which some will adapt to quickly, quicker than others. But it's always wide open, man. It's always wide open, and you're going to see a lot of these people have big resurgences coming on here shortly.
Absolutely. Well, we know you got to go. We appreciate you, man. Real quick, shout out to your teammate. Couple New Zealanders up there on the podium together.
Yeah, that was cool, man. It was really fun. Really fun to have Marcus up there.
Good guy. I like Marcus.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man.
Kiwi's going hard.
Yeah, I think honestly, he, you know, probably should have had one a little bit earlier in the season without some difficulties that they had. But he's been fired up, man. It's good to see, and ran probably a race that he was a little out of his comfort zone as far as, you know, saving fuel and doing things like that. But you know, it's the building blocks to making it, you know, bigger for the future. But yeah, I expect a lot more from him, man. And yeah, it's fun. We just need a Kiwi sweep at some point. So we need McLaughlin to, you know, get in there. We'll get up there. It'll be fun, man.
I mean, honestly, there's a high likelihood of that happening. I think
that'd be cool. That'd be cool to see.
You guys are fast. I appreciate your time. I could have asked a ton of questions about fuel saving, but we already know the answer to that. You're very good at it. So a lot of people wanted me to ask. Yeah, I got a lot of questions on YouTube too from different fans that kind of wanted to ask stuff. So I appreciate it. People love hearing from you, and I hope to get a little bit of those out there. But yeah, we appreciate your time, man. I could probably talk to you for forever because there's a lot of fun things to talk about. But thank you.
Anytime, man. You know,
honestly, we will probably talk to you again. I assume this is probably not
It
our
doesn't
last
have to always be after a win, man. Just
let's talk again.
We'll be fine, you know.
It'll be like a nice Thursday afternoon interview.
That's right.
A little Thursday afternooner. All right, man. Well, Scott Dixon, thank you so much. And
thanks, guys.
Good luck at Road America, and we will see you there.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Later, man.
Man, got to appreciate Scott Dixon's conversation. I wish we would have got to a little bit more. I asked a lot of the folks on YouTube. I appreciate the folks on YouTube. They submitted some questions for him. I didn't necessarily get to directly ask those questions, but I think a few of them might have covered a couple of your questions. But we'll try to maybe do that more on the YouTube. If you want to ask some questions, I'll try to get a couple of those in. But yeah, great chat with Scott. Love talking with Scott. He had some great opinions for us. What do you think, Chase?
I know. I look, Scott Dixon has been one of those guys that has grown on me since I've been in Indy. I feel very, very blessed and fortunate that I can be like in a crowd and like after the 500 when I was leaving you to go and meet up with the wife and the kiddo, like he was walking out and he was just like, "Hey," and I was like, "What's up?" And I got to see him for a minute. So like that's definitely cool because now realizing just like how much of a legend the man is. So. And, I got to get him 2 Bass Pro Shop hats now. I think that's going to be the new tradition. When he wins, I'm just going to buy him neon Bass Pro Shop hats.
Just a bunch of Bass Pro Shop hats. Love it.
That's it, dude.
All right, well, let's get to the Road America preview. A quick little preview here. Yeah. Road America coming up this weekend. I noticed that last show we did not even preview Detroit because we were talking so much about the Indy 500.
It's a lot.
But we got to give you a Detroit preview. Sunday, June 9th on Big NBC. We had 7 million people almost. Well, we had 6.1. We had 13.3 million people at one point watching the Indy 500. Let's at least get a million. Come on, guys. Like, let's tune in. What are we doing? 3:30 p.m. Sunday, June 9th on Big NBC. Obviously, the rest of the stuff you can watch on Peacock, all the practice sessions and qualifying sessions. I've enjoyed watching on Peacock. So that'll be cool. But let's give maybe a couple top 3 predictions. Top 3 predictions. And again, I like to do this where we pick just 3 drivers, and we don't have to pick P1, P2, P3. But if we get all 3 on the top 3, that's just kind of cool. So I'm going to go first here, Chase. I'm going to go first. I think there are a lot of people looking for redemption this weekend. I think there are a lot of people that need a good weekend. I think this is a Felix Rosenqvist weekend, though. I do believe that Felix Rosenqvist has always been successful at Road America. He is he's been so fast this year overall. I think Felix Rosenqvist is going to be the man to beat. But other than that, I think Felix, I think Alex Palou, I think he's inevitable. Felix, Alex Palou, and then I've got to pick a Chevy driver, I believe, because I think Chevy's got good power at places like this with long straights. Oh man, part of me wants to pick Will Power, but a lot of emotions going on. I know. But when it comes to
be there,
I'm going Felix Rosenqvist. I'm going Alex Palou, and I'm going to go with Alex Rossi. Alex Rossi. I thought with my heart, though. I was really thinking it should be Pato, but I'm going to go with Rossi. Rossi, Palou, Rosenqvist. Those are my top 3.
Rossi, Palou, and Rosenqvist. All right, so I'm taking a look here. I was doing a little bit of digging into some statisticals, and I was looking. So it appears Joseph Newgarden, I believe, won this race. He is a past winner here. Felix Rosenqvist, not a bad pick either because he is a past winner as well.
Yep.
Rossi, the same. Dixon, Palou, Will Power, usual characters. I'm going to go out on the limb, and I'm going to say Herta is going to be one of my picks this week. I feel like after the display that happened in Detroit, he's going to be like, I'm not going to put up with this. I'm not going to tolerate this. I'm going to get out there, and I'm going to win. I don't know if he gets the pole. I do think Rosenqvist will probably get the pole here. But I will say that I feel like Herta is going to find a way to work some things out. So that's my number 1 pick this week, Colton Herta to win Road America. Also gotta kind of go back to the Penske camp. I'm going to go Scotty Mack. Scotty Mack finished second here last year. I think that he has kind of been on a tear. He's another guy that's going to be looking for a good comeback after Detroit. And my third pick, I'm going to go back-to-back with the man we just talked to. Might have to get 3 Bass Pro Shop hats. I'm going to go with Scott Dixon as well. I feel like right now, why not keep that momentum going?
Why not?
So there you have it. Colton Herta, Scott McLaughlin, Scott Dixon. Those are my picks for Road America.
I respect that. Those are some good picks. All right. Well, you know what that means, folks. We have made our predictions. We have told you when and how to watch the race. So now let us get to the Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week.
The greatest event of its kind that's ever been run on.
Let's meet the drivers. Who will make up the field?
And with that, we are, I am live looking at a list right now to make sure that I have not picked this driver before. And I do believe out of 127 drivers on our list, we have not picked this driver yet. So this week, I went with the 1950 Indy 500. We went old, very old, 1950. A couple gangsters probably in this race, you know what I mean? A couple old school mafia mobsters, who knows?
Yeah, dude. Girlfriends, French poodle skirts.
Yeah. So I went with, and I'm just checking. All right, here we go. I went with the 22nd place finisher in the 1950 Indy 500, Walt Adder. Walt Adder or Ader, maybe? Walt Adder.
I like Adder better.
Walt Adder finished 22nd in the 1950 Indianapolis 500. Walt Adder was a resident of Bernardsville, New Jersey guy. After his racing career, he was a volunteer firefighter. So shout out Walt. Walt's out here fighting fires. I respect that. Love that. This is hilarious. I love finding these. This is my favorite thing. So Walt Adder only won Indy 500, 1950.
Whoa.
It was Walt Adder's only Indianapolis 500 start. That is so cool. I love finding a couple diamonds in the rough here. Kind of crazy, yeah.
So he went and ran an Indy 500, then he's like, I'm going to go fight fires, dude.
And then he's going to go fight fires.
I'm out.
Yeah. That's wild. So that's really interesting. So it says here, too, that the AAA USAC sanctioned Indianapolis 500 was included in the FIA World Drivers' Championship from 1950 through 1960. Drivers competing in Indianapolis during those years were credited with World Drivers' Championship participation and were eligible to score World Driver Championship points alongside those which they may have scored towards the USAC National Championship. That's kind of wild. So just one Indy 500. But yeah, that's pretty cool, man. I love finding guys who, he died age 69 in Califon, New Jersey. So shout out Walt Adder, born in 1912, died in 1982. So shout out Walter.
Salute to Walt. I also feel like that could be like a cool like rap dance, like Walt Adder, Walt Adder, Walt.
That's definitely an interesting way to see it. Yeah, might be an interesting one.
There's a little bit of the New Orleans in me, I guess.
That's probably it. Yeah, that's probably it. All right, folks. Well, we appreciate you coming by. Again, thank you to all those folks that listen to the show, that subscribe to the channel, that tell a friend about the show. It seems like we got a lot of energy going. Can't wait to see our month of May numbers. A lot of great interactions on the YouTubes. And feel free to let us know what you think of the show. And we can't wait to chat with the winner of the Road America race next week. Next week will be an interesting one, though. Just heads up, there's a Milwaukee test on the Tuesday and the Wednesday, I believe, 2-day test. And as Scott Dixon mentioned to us, he's going to be in France on Tuesday. So stay tuned for next week's show. We might have to do it at a weird time or recording at a strange time. But either way, we're gonna have a show out for you. We're gonna have the winner of the race on. let's just hope it's not one of the drivers that is going to Le Mans, and they can chat sometime, maybe on Monday. Maybe we'll interview on Monday. So we'll see. I'm driving the 2-seater in Milwaukee, though, on Monday, so who knows? So we'll figure it out. But thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next week on Speed Street. Hey everyone, Connor Daly here. Please leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and also subscribe to the channel as well. That would be very helpful. Be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you on the next episode of Speed Street.